Namaskar and welcome to In Focus. Every now and then a work of art becomes a landmark and changes how we perceive things. A Gujarati novel adapted into a Marathi play, now translated into English, Mahatma versus Gandhi, is clearly one such. At one level, it's the story of a father-son relationship. But when I tell you that the father is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and the son the truant Harilal, you'll realize that it goes much deeper. So what sort of play is this, and where does its significance lie? Here to talk about the play is the star of the production, Naseeruddin Shah. Naseer, I want to talk to you about this play that you've starred in, but first, as you see it, tell us, what's it about?
Well, unfortunately, it's a play which has gotten known as something controversial, which is an unfortunate happening. Because, as you yourself said, Karan, that it's high time that we grew up in our perception of our leaders and all these demigods who won us independence. It's high time that we started to look at them as people and not as objects worthy of worship. And to my mind, this play is one such step in that direction of trying to understand the man behind the public mask. And the fact that Gandhiji's point of view is not presented in the play, it's rather the son's point of view which is presented, makes people feel that it is an anti-Gandhi play, which to my mind it is not. Gandhiji's point of view was well known to everyone. And the play is not a political play, which again it's mistaken to be, because if it's a political play at all, it's about the politics of relationships. It is not to do with Gandhi's stature as a leader or what he achieved in the independence movement, what he achieved in his life.
In fact, it looks at a very private, personal Gandhi, the family man.
Exactly, and that is why this work told me more about Gandhiji than any previous one that I've seen.
Let me pick up something you said. You said it's a controversial piece of work in the sense that that's how it's been perceived. That's largely because it demystifies Gandhi, isn't it?
Yes, and that is mistaken to be an attempt to pull him off his pedestal and knock him around a bit. But that is not at all so. But
no, it humanizes him.
Which humanizes him.
And presents him, warts and all, as he was.
As he was.
Rather than as we want to believe him to be some sort of perfection, which he never was.
Well, he aspired to perfection and reached pretty close, which is a rare achievement in the first place. And everybody knows that. So at no point are these qualities of his negated. The things which are highlighted are the things which exasperated Harilal, which he could never understand.
Let's go through those one by one in a sense, because I think the audience would want to know and try and understand. The play, in a sense, taking its title for a start, splits the character into the Mahatma versus Gandhi. Now, in a sense, this is more about Gandhi the husband, Gandhi the father, is that right?
Mostly about the father, and the original title is Gandhi Viruddha Gandhi, which is, I don't know, but I don't much care for that title. But the fact is that that title just does suggest a splitting up of one person into two, and after all, a father and son is that. Each father sees himself in his son, and each son does idolize his father.
Let's talk a little about the way the play presents Gandhi the father, Gandhi the husband. What does it tell us about him?
It tells us that he was, firstly, a very loving and affectionate father. There's no doubt about that, because he did love children, and one cannot accept the fact that he did not care for his children. It's just that he was extra stern on them because he hoped they would really be the ones who would follow in his footsteps. Now, it is tough to empathize with such a man, but the fact is that he was so utterly convinced of what he believed in that he probably never encountered another person, including the British government, who was so utterly convinced of what they were saying. And that is what gave him this fortitude. This is what gave him this obstinacy, if you will. And this is what gave him this almost despotic and ruthless quality as far as dealing with his children was concerned, because he wanted them to be no less.
Yes, but in a sense, what you're saying is absolutely true. But from Harilal's point of view, this was a father who didn't bend his principles to accommodate his son.
There are always two points of view to anything. I mean, I examined my relationship with my own father, which was not a very happy relationship. In fact, he never understood what was wrong with me. Firstly, I don't think there was anything wrong with me.
I was going to ask you, what was wrong with you?
And I could never figure out what was wrong with him. fact is, there was nothing wrong with him either. He was doing what he felt.
Are you saying that you weren't suited to be father and son to each other?
Well, one cannot pass a judgment on that because that's how it was. That
But
was
in a
the
sense, isn't that
biological
also
fact.
what the problem was between Gandhi and Harilal?
Yes.
They may have loved each other, but they didn't understand each other.
There is a peculiar complexity to this relationship. Not understanding each other's point of view is where the problems begin. And then each one enlarges itself. Then each little thing, even if he tells me not to have an extra helping of the sweet after dinner, acquires a special significance. And thus, you go into an area which one can only define as paranoid, and then the problems enlarge.
Okay, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's no doubt when you see the play, and I've seen the play, that from Harilal's point of view, seeing the play through his eyes, through his emotions, he thought, an unfeeling, an uncaring father who at moments when he needed him wasn't there to help.
But at the same time, at no point does Harilal question the fact that his father loves him, or that he loves his father. He says that this and this and this and this is my problem with you. But at the same time, Bapu, I'm highly proud to be your son. At the same time, there is no denying
But
that
he
you're a
takes
great
it
man.
further and he says, Babu, you have to give us the freedom to make our mistakes.
That's
That's something Gandhi wasn't keen to do.
Well, that's a very strong argument by Harilal, and that's because Gandhiji felt he knew better than Harilal did. The problems began with him not sending Harilal.
His rock-solid convictions actually made
Absolutely.
Gandhi a little narrow, didn't it?
It did make him a little narrow, and as I said, and this is purely a conjecture on my part, but I think that no one else he encountered had the same force of conviction.
But again, the corollary to that is he was so certain he was right, and he'd based it on so much experience and self-analysis that he couldn't really, not brook dissent, but accept that there could be another point of view that deserved an experiment.
And particularly a point of view which conflicted with his.
So he was a little dictatorial to his children.
I guess you could say that. But we must never forget that had he not been thus, he would never have achieved what he did.
Except that from the children's point of view, they would argue that perhaps he achieved what he did somewhat at the cost of them.
At the cost of them, that is what they would feel. But I would say that to have Gandhi for a father would be compensation enough. I mean, the lessons we learn in life are the lessons we learn, not those that are taught
Except
to us.
that if it's compensation in the sense that you have a saint for a father, not a dad for a father. Harilal wanted a dad.
He wanted a dad. And to Gandhiji, this was a petty consideration on Harilal's part. He wanted Harilal to aspire higher, to have a larger perspective.
And Harilal wasn't made for those aspirations.
I think he was just one of those guys who craves affection. You see, he being the eldest son, and then there were children in the family who were born, who were much younger than him, who were obviously very adorable and so on. So as you know, then
so he was an
taken
eldest
for
son
granted.
who never got the affection he wanted, at least not in the extent he wanted.
Not to the extent he wanted. And thus looked for it in other areas of life, found friends who he thought approved of him, who were for the most part fair weather friends.
And so went down the wrong path.
And went down the wrong path, craved it from his wife, was tried in his own peculiar way to emulate Gandhiji when he talks to his son. And he has his own way of dealing with it, where he says, I want you to make your own decision so that you know that I'm different from him. But in fact, what he's doing is in a very brutal way almost what was done to him.
But in that relationship between Gandhi and Harilal, there is also another side of Gandhi that comes out, a sort of what we would consider an idiosyncrasy. He didn't really formally educate Harilal. I mean, Harilal never became matriculate till his 30s. And that's something that today we find very difficult to accept.
Perhaps he felt that Harilal's life would be better served following his path, and perhaps...
But Harilal clearly in that play doesn't accept that, does he? He rebels against it.
He rebels against it, and you could say that that is Harilal's mistake, because had Gandhiji genuinely believed that Harilal is the most deserving one to go to England to study law, I think he would have sent him. I don't think there was any discrimination there. I don't think there was any
Except that there are lines in the
sternness.
play where there is a hint that Gandhi didn't send him because he felt that I can't accept for my family the goodies that come our way. I have to prove that this is for a cause,
that
not
this
for
is
me.
for the cause.
And
Yes.
so there's a sense in which Harilal is
Yes.
almost a testing case.
A test case. But then don't forget that whatever else Gandhiji may have been, he was also a politician.
Yes, and in a sense, in fact, the play shows the triumph of the politician, the mission, the cause, over the father, the children, the
And
family.
the filial legacy that he could have given to his children.
Another aspect of Gandhi is Gandhi the husband. Now, with his wife Kasturba, as seen in the play, he sometimes comes across as a stern husband who likes to have his way, doesn't always consider her side of the case.
Yeah, he never did, apparently, and I guess what could only justify this his behavior in his marital life, which he's openly talked about, as again another attempt to channelize every possible energy at his command to what he felt was his mission in life.
But again at the cost of the family, again at the cost of the wife who's an individual in her own right.
I suppose so, but then, well...
Okay, can I interrupt? Isn't there a moment in the play when in Phoenix Farm he's discovered that his wife is transgressing the ban on sugar and he publicly humiliates her?
But he would have done that to anyone, I feel. His family feels that you are extra harsh on us, but then the families expect an extra attention too.
Tell me something, how has his family reacted to this play? Because as we said earlier, it's a demystifying, but many people would think it's a debunking of the person. And how his family responded to it?
Some of them apparently are upset because they feel that the play's got some facts wrong about Harilal, and they feel that Gandhiji comes across as a villainous sort of a person. And unfortunately, in the Gujarati and the Marathi and Hindi versions, he does. And
Not so much in the English.
I think so, and I consider that an achievement.
Tell me though, because I've seen the play in English, I have no idea of the Gujarati novel or the Marathi play. And what was very apparent in the whole is that this is a very powerful play full of heart-wrenching emotions. But one's sympathies were entirely with Harilal.
With Harilal, the audience is always in sympathy with the underdog.
Now, is that the intended impact? Must be.
I think so. And the audience is always in sympathy with the underdog. And they love laughing at the discomfiture of someone who they know is great.
So consciously, this play and its author is representing Gandhi in not maybe a new light, because clearly the real Gandhi was like this, but in a light that we've never quite accepted or seen.
In a light that we have never seen as a family man. And that is why, for me, it was a great challenge to play this part, because I was not only playing Gandhi the leader, I was playing Gandhi the father.
And playing Gandhi the father in a way in which you were stripping Gandhi apart to show him as he was, which may go against the grain of how we've been brought up to see him.
Right, because the fact is that however great he may have been, he was a human being. He was not a god. He was an unusual human being. He was a rare human being, but he was human.
Let me come back to something you said at the very beginning. You kindly mentioned a conversation I had with you before this interview, just after the play. In a sense, if it's true that societies, when they venerate great men and make them saints, end up diminishing themselves, then is it also true that when those same societies show those great men to be actually just human beings, they're liberating themselves and showing their own maturity?
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that in India we have done too much of this veneration business over the leaders. I mean, we must recognize everyone's contribution, but then the fact is that there are zillions of nameless people whose photographs are nowhere. And it's become almost a business to have the photographs of the great leaders everywhere without really understanding what these people represented even.
So in the case of Gandhi, this is not just a humanizing of the legend, but it's actually a correction of the way we perceive it.
I think, and I think it is time that we did begin to perceive him as a human, so that even the political analysts who claim that so and so leader made so and so mistake, at least I mean they will temper their harshness.
Do you agree with me then when I say that this is a landmark play?
I hope so.
Then tell me something. Does it worry you or does it concern you that this particular production has failed to find sponsors, presumably because people are scared that this is the sort of landmark that becomes controversy and they're not ready for it?
the fact that we haven't found sponsors has given us courage, in fact, and we've gone ahead on our own steam, and that for that the credit goes to Feroz, the producer. I personally, in my own productions, have never looked for sponsorships, and we try to make sure that.
Sure, I didn't mean sponsorship in the sense
itself.
of the actual financial backing that it brings. I meant sponsorship in the sense that there were people prepared to stand up and say, I recognize a landmark, I'm going to back it. Not money, but support it.
Well, increasingly over the shows we've had in Delhi, the response has been thus. The first few shows were a little lukewarm in terms of audience response.
So you're reaching
in terms
out.
of audience, yeah, but I think we're getting across to them, and we've had all packed houses since then.
One last question for this part. Are you finding a sort of resistance which says, is this based on fact? Have they distorted Gandhi because they just want to debunk him, or are they really revealing a Gandhi that's the real Gandhi, but one we didn't know?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, because even if certain scenes are the writer's imagination, that's fine with me, because they make a point, and they make at times a very poignant point and a very powerful
And it's in keeping with the overall spirit of the truth.
It's in keeping with the overall spirit of the truth.
So in your eyes, this is the real Gandhi.
This is the real Gandhi, and I mean, I think it'd be very boring to just play history.
Okay, Naseer, at that point, let's take a break. I want to now come back in part 2 and talk to you about how you are playing the real Gandhi.
Right.
But first, we take a quick commercial break. See you in just a couple of moments. Welcome back. We're talking to Naseeruddin Shah about his new play, Mahatma versus Gandhi. Naseer, let's talk in this part about how you've approached the role. You have an incredible likeness on stage to the real Gandhi. Does that involve hours of makeup?
I always thought that I had a likeness. In fact, many years ago, when the big Hollywood project which got made with Ben Kingsley was announced, and that time I was in school, and Attenborough came down to attend a festival and spoke about this film Gandhi, and he mentioned the name of Sir Alec Guinness to play the part. And I said, oh hell, I'm really too young to play it, but I think I could grow up and do this role. And then, as it happened, I met Attenborough and so on. And this time around, it does involve one complete hour of makeup, by the way. But the makeup, I felt, is not as important, and the physical resemblance, to do a perfect imitation of Gandhi should not be my intention, because that's been done. And
absolutely. I was going to go on to ask you, when you have to play someone that many people think they've seen and all of us feel we know what he looks like, what is it that you strive for? Is it physical likeness? Is it to speak like him? Or is it to acquire some other quality, perhaps some invisible quality that just makes you him?
That's exactly it. The invisible quality which makes you like him and which makes you think like him. And you try, as an actor, to feel like that person too. Now, a lot of people scoff at this technique and all, but that doesn't bother me.
How did you do that? How did you try and become Gandhi?
Well, by leading a disciplined life to begin with. I lead a pretty anarchic existence. I don't have regular hours. Through the period of rehearsal for this play, I got my life organized. I tried to live in as austere a manner as possible, just to help me understand to an extent. I mean, I don't claim I started sleeping on a wooden plank, but I did reduce from my life all fripperies, all worldly pleasures, as not all, but a lot of them.
And this was done not to become Gandhi, but to put yourself in a position to understand.
To understand what it feels like to do this. And does it result in a sense of achievement as far as I'm concerned? Can I, within myself, discover the potential of being a Gandhi?
Tell me something else. You are actually here playing a side of Gandhi that many of us are not familiar with. It was the private father, the husband. Did it involve a certain amount of research on your part? Did you have to read? Did you have to talk to people who knew him?
No, I haven't talked to anyone who knew him. I haven't even met anyone who has actually physically seen him. And the reading, which I did, has been done over the years, because the part has eluded me many times, or I've not been able to do it. So I've done the research, I've read my experiments with truth, and I've read the history of Satyagraha. I've read some of his letters.
So in a sense, to misquote Pirandello, you were actor ready for this character?
Ready for a part.
Ready for a part.
I don't know, Karan, if I was ready, and I like to believe that I wasn't ready, and that is why the part didn't come to me earlier. And I'm glad that it didn't happen. I'm glad it's happened now. I've always believed, as far as an actor's life is concerned, that it's not whether the opportunity will come, but will you be ready when it comes. And I think I was finally ready.
One of the
this
most
time round.
incredible moments of the way you play Gandhi is that when you are towards the end of his life in the play, and he's clearly an old and frail man, you were an old and frail man, and there's a stage where you actually crumpled, not just your voice, but physically. Now that must be a very difficult thing to do, because clearly you're not an old, frail man.
Well, it just takes practice. I mean, I've always believed that any flaw in an actor's work is the direct result of laziness on his part. And you can become anything you like with a lot of practice.
It's a triumph of will over any other obstacle.
Right.
Huh?
Because I've always believed that each human being has within him the potential to be anything.
Okay, can I ask you a slightly naughty question? You've seen two great Gandhis on film. There's the Ben Kingsley one, the Rajat Kapoor one, and now there's a great Gandhi on stage. Now I admit those were filmed, your stage. But how would you compare and contrast them?
It's very tough for me to answer that, because for both those films I was in contention to play the part. I was very, very impressed with both the performances. Ben, I thought, has this marvelous quality in his eyes, which when I saw him in subsequent films, I realized that I don't have. At least I did not at that time. And I really admired his performance, particularly since he's English and he managed to convince this whole country that he was Gandhi.
You're ignoring the Krishna Bhanji completely.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that. And Rajat's performance too, I felt, was better than I could have done, because I would never have appeared that young on film. And that bright-eyed, anxious quality, looking ahead at your life, I'm a little past it now. And I thought Rajat did full justice to that part. I would have perhaps been a failure in that role, in that film. So it's all for the best.
You're being very negative. Where do you see your own strengths? Please, I mean, you are an incredible likeness of Gandhi on stage, and stage doesn't have the slightly deceptive quality of film, so you have to be more convincing. And
there are certain deceptions you can get away with on stage, and certain other deceptions you can get away with on film. You can appear old and young without too much makeup on the stage. In fact, to me, the magic of a stage performance is where the actor would not need all these props and age right in front of the audience. That would be a great challenge. I think I have a certain facility with that, and also because I love acting on the stage, perhaps a little more than I love acting in movies.
Because it's more challenging?
It's great fun.
Because of the immediate rapport with the audience?
That is one of the things, the state of readiness you've got to be in, the anxiety that you feel,
and also I suppose every night is a new performance.
Every night
will go anyway.
Every night is a new performance, and that is, unless it's a new performance every night, you will become stale, as a lot of actors like to say.
Okay. My last question, because sadly time is against us. You're acting here in the company of your own two sons. Is that a little daunting for a dad?
It's, well, it's, at times I tend to react to them as myself, rather than as Bapu to his sons. But it's delightful to have them on stage, and I feel very proud of them. And
what about the opposite? I mean, do they ever react to you as yourself rather than as Bapu? Because the Bapu they're seeing is quite a stern dad rather than the loving dad they know.
But luckily for me, in the scene where I am with them, I have to be affectionate. But I think they are pros. The other day in the performance, I was a little bit late for my first entrance, where I'm supposed to transform from the young Gandhi, old Gandhi, into the young one. And I entered a good 5 seconds late, and they're supposed to be calling out to me. So they went on calling out to me, and I felt very proud of them. They're real troopers.
So you got two more makers,
two more
actors in the family.
Two more in the family.
On that note, Naseer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wish you, the play, your children, the very best of luck.
Thanks very much.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another interviewee. But for today, From Naseeruddin Shah's room here in the India Habitat Center in New Delhi, goodbye.